In this next part of the modeling of these various chess pieces, we're going to be modeling the bishop. Let's go ahead and let's hide the queen. We don't need that. Let's come into the front view. Let's go into wireframe so we can see that I've already got this part established. We're not going to go through all the modeling of that. You can watch the queen modeling in order to figure out how to do that. But what I do want to do is get the center exactly matched up to the body that we already have right here of the bishop. So I'm going to hit Tab, double click here, Shift S, cursor to selected. There we go. Now we're not going to try and model directly in here. We're going to model the top part of the bishop sort of as a separate piece, and then we'll integrate it. And this will make sense as we go through it. So I'm going to insert a new object, Shift A, let's go down to Mesh, Single Vert, right there. And let's make sure we're in vertex mode. I'm going to move that over right to about that position there. And then press the E key and let's just start extruding up. Let's pull back a little bit. E, and just basically trace the template about like that. It doesn't need to be absolute 100% exact. And at the top, I'm still going to be pretty crude. E, E, and then I'll do one more at the center. And what I'd like to do is to make sure that this point is exactly at the center, and we can reference that right here. So when we look at X, it's just off a little bit, and so I want that to be exactly at 0 along the X-axis. Let's go ahead and close this down. This is where we can come in and make any refinements that we want. In fact, I do think down here I'm going to add one more point between there. Let's do subdivide, and this will make sense. I'm just going to increase the resolution down here just slightly and sort of redistribute those just a little bit. Take that. There we go. Okay, so that works pretty well. Now, the concept here is that we're going to lathe this, and then we need to figure out how to cut this out of that lathe. So we're going to use a Boolean function, but we really want to make sure it's set up in such a way that we don't run into all the weirdness that you can end up with when you use Booleans on objects that have very different topology. Let's press the period key and do cursor to active element. For right now, that'll work a little bit better. Let's come in now and define this shape. I don't need it to be exactly the way the template is. There's nothing saying we have to have it exactly, but let's come over and do select box. And I'm going to take and get all of those, and I'm going to do Shift and D and then X, and we'll just drop that right there. S key, X, and we're going to, do you see how I'm sort of roughly forming that to the contour of that cutout? Then we're going to zoom down and just take the existing points, and we're going to line them up to where we generally think the center of that cutout is going to be. Now, the thing is, we're just repurposing the exact topology as it already is, meaning these points here are matching up to these so that when we do a Boolean subtraction, everything matches up and you don't have weirdness going on with two different topologies coming together. And then let's come up to the top and find these just a little bit more. Now this one we do need to extend up like this, and then E, and this I want to go right through the center point. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to press G again, B, take this point and snap it to the center. And in fact, I'll take this in and just pull it in a little bit. So it kind of has a nice, gentle, sloping curve like that. Down here in the bottom, I think what I'm going to do is move this up a little bit. Again, I'm not trying to match this exactly, but one thing that we do note is that this interior in the middle is higher up than down here, and we are going to be doing something like that. So let's come in, since we've got this last point selected, Shift S, cursor to selected, and then do Command L to select linked, and then Shift and D, escape key, and then S, X, -1. And then we just want to merge these together. So bring up the context menu and do merge at center or by distance. Any of them are going to work on 2 points. Now, what I want to do here on this is just reform this one to match this just a little bit more. Bring that up like that. And then the rest up here doesn't matter so much. So let's come in and move these, Command L or Control L on the PC, and let's move these away. So I want to move it so it's outside of the form, what this form will be once we lathe it. It's telling me that this position is almost 5 inches along the Y axis in the negative direction. And I just want it to be exact. So I'm going to type in -5. And this will make sense because now I can do E and then tap the Y key. And I want it to be exactly 10 so that we have an exact flip of the extrusion to the other side of the object's center point right here. So then we can come over to the loop cut function and drop 1 cut right in the middle. Since we're going to be doing a Boolean subtraction, we need to make sure that our object is closed. So let's come over and cap off the top, bridge edge loops. This is open, so let's double click each of these and press the F key to fill both of those. But we got to check facing direction. This is very important to get predictable Booleans. So let's come over here and turn on face orientation. You can see the caps aren't aligned right. So A key to select everything. And then let's come up to mesh, normals, recalculate outside. And that's correct now. So let's go ahead and turn face orientation off. Let's go ahead and turn the template off. We really don't need that much anymore. And then we need to create, I'm going to leave edit mode by hitting tab. Now, see, I created that inside of the object, and that's okay. So let me do this. Let's actually come back in. I just realized that. Select single polygon, Command L for select connected, then press the P key, and let's move that to its own object. So I'll press the tab key to leave edit mode. And then this we'll just call subtraction to make it easy, if I could spell that correctly. Okay, so we'll come back here and we'll call this bishop top. Now we need to be very careful that we understand where our center point is. Shift S, cursor to selected, that's important because when I jump back into edit mode, tab, press the A key. I like doing this in vertex mode. I don't know why. I like seeing my vertices. We want to come over and use the spin function. So let's come over and make sure under tool, active tool, that you're using Z, and then just come around and pull this like that. We want to have 24 sides, so it matches the geometry in the bottom, and full 360. Okay, and then just click and close that down. Let's press the tab key to leave edit mode. I want to come back into this, press the tab key, and on the top, I just want to move this up a little bit so it wasn't intersecting exactly at the top there. Okay, so tab, let's reselect the bishop head, and we'll come over. You see how we have these, everything is matched up. And this will make for a very predictable Boolean operation. If they're mismatched, you have to go into delete lots of points, and it's a real headache to get the topology to work. So we come over to generate, and let's do a Boolean, and then we're in difference, which is subtract, and then we select this here. There we go. And then let's turn off the subtraction component. And now we have some geometry that is ready to do some fine tuning to. Let's press the question mark key to go into isolation mode. Into the top view, I want to remove the back half, the work that we're about to do, I just don't want the back half there visibly. So tab key, actually let's apply the Boolean so it's kind of baked in. Option Z goes into X-ray mode, tab, and now we're in select box so that we can come over and marquee around this half. You may need to zoom down just to make sure that everything is exact. Press the X key and then delete these faces. There we go. So we're being careful, so everything is very sort of exact. Okay, let's come into the front. Option Z takes us back out. So we do have a little bit of cleanup work to do around here, but that's okay. Generally, it's going to be pretty easy because you can see how everything is lining up along here. So that's a very good thing. So let's start on the bottom. Let's come into vertex mode and let's kind of figure out what to do. The easy thing to do is select this point and this point, bring up the context menu, and then do connect vertex path, which is the J key. So that's what we'll do from now on. So here and here, J key, and then 2 keys, we can select both of these and then do a dissolve edges. Make sure you have dissolve vertices selected also. And then over here, let's sort of reconfigure this. I'm going to go ahead and do a dissolve edge there. And then 1 key, I want to take this point and snap it to that point, or actually weld them. So take this point and this point, bring up the context menu, and then do a merge vertices at last. But you're going to notice that there aren't any keyboard commands assigned to these. We could assign them, but there's also a really neat and easy quick access command. So if we right click on this, we can see where it says remove from quick favorites. Well, I've already assigned this to a quick favorite. So let's select these again. Select this point and then this point. You press the Q key and it takes that command and puts it right easy at last right there. So that's really handy. So I think I'm going to come over here and press GG twice to sort of slide that and sort of get it over just a little bit. I don't want to change the topology too much around there, but this is why I came down and added an extra point down here just to give myself a little bit of extra resolution to work with. So let's come up here now and sort of see if there's anything up here that we need to do. So we don't necessarily want to have to do a huge amount of work here. So we're going to just adjust this and this a little bit. I'm going to take this point and this point, J key, and then 2, and I'm going to do a dissolve edge right there. And we're essentially going to do kind of the same thing here. Here and here, J key, and then 2, and then take these and just dissolve those. So we just sort of simplified that a little bit. Didn't need to do anything really extravagant with that. There are going to be these triangles here. That's okay. We're just going to live with that. So the next thing that we want to do is turn our attention to what's kind of going on up here. So let's come in now and take a look at this area. So the Boolean has sliced a polygon really close to another one. So let's go ahead and remove that. Let's come back into edge mode, double click that, and we'll just do a dissolve edges. Okay, dissolve vertices, we want to have that selected too. Now, if we look at the top, we have a whole bunch of these vertices that have ended up bunched up next to each other, and we really want to clean that up. So let's go into X-ray mode and back out and just marquee across all of those. So this is a situation where you really want to be careful about making sure that X-ray is on so that you're doing a select through. Okay, bring up the context menu and then do merge vertices at center, and it's merged all of those. But this is very, very subtle. It's actually moved potentially that vertex off of the symmetry plane. So if we look at this in the top view, this is our symmetry plane, and we've potentially moved it ever so slightly off, which you can see right there. Okay, it's off that. And the weld operation would probably take care of it, but I don't want to leave anything to chance. So I'm going to move it so it's really obviously off, and I want to align it to the symmetry edge. So press the G key, Y, and then the B key, snap here, and then come and snap to an element that's on the symmetry. So our goal is to subdivide this. This is a pretty crude mesh, and we're designing it so that it will be subdivided quite easily and produce a very predictable mesh. So there's something going on right here. One key here, select this Q, and then at last, and that gets that in. Okay, now we need to take and connect and patch up the network of polygons here that will take this polygon, which is an n-gon here, and dice that up into quads and triangles so it'll subdivide predictably. So let's come back over into vertex mode. In fact, we need to do that here too. Press the K key, click, and we want to do it along the y-axis. So tap Y, and then click here, and then right-click, and then that will let you do another operation, and it will also be constrained to the y-axis. Click, and then right-click, and then you can do the next one here. Click, and if you want to stop that, just hit the return key, and then you can continue doing the next set of operations up here. But we're going to do, let's do it one more time. Let's do this one. Click, Y key, and then click and return. But in this case, I'm going to press K, and I'm going to start here, come to this point, and then that point, and those are going to get terminated like that. And that'll make more sense as we progress through the rest of this tutorial. But we really just wanted to make sure that that was all patched up. Now we have this patchwork of polygons here. So earlier on, I said that the interior wasn't just a straight shot over, that the inside actually kind of came up. The inside is higher than the outside. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to let's come into edge mode, or actually let's come into vertex mode. Select here, and then come over, hold the control key and click here, and it does that select through. The last point is the active element. And when we press the period key, we're currently having the pivot go to the active element. So that works out really well. Now, press S and then Z, we can scale that up. We don't need to do much more than that. This is very simple in terms of the topology. Okay, Option Z takes us out of X-ray. So we need to mirror it because we've been working on this one side. And before we mirror it, since we've done a Boolean operation, one thing I tend to like to do is to run a weld function, sort of a global weld function, to make sure we don't have any vertices that look like they're overlapping but aren't. And let's just look here. If I press the G key, do you see we do? We've got a little bit of something going on right here that isn't quite welded. So select everything, A key, come down to merge vertices by distance, and it'll tell us, it says removed 3 vertices. But we want to check, you always kind of want to check, just make sure, like these smaller ones, that it didn't get anything up there. But I don't see anything oddball. So that's just a good thing that it welded 3 things that could potentially forestall modeling issues down the road. Let's come into the top. I always like to just double check to make sure that my symmetry point is, my object's origin is right at the symmetry point, and it is, so that's a good thing. So let's come in and do generate and mirror. We want to go along the Y only. Option Z. Okay, so that's good. So we're at the point, now we've got the topology matched up really well, and we want to make sure that we are able to put rounding around here like a fillet, but we can't just run the fillet function because the geometry is too dense up here. So we need to put a boundary around here that will give us consistent geometry that we can produce that consistent fillet around. So tab key takes us into edit mode. Let's go ahead and select the interior. Actually, we need to apply the mirror. Okay, tab key, and then we can come in and select all of this. Come up to select linked flat faces, and let's give it a pretty large value, like say 12. Select one more polygon and then just Shift R, and that will again run the function on there. That's perfect. It's exactly what we want. So now we're going to come over here to the extrude along normals function, click, hold, and drag, and just put in a new set of polygons about like that. Okay. Return, and then press the I key, and we're going to inset till we get about like that. We've got some polygons that are bunched up to the top here. That's okay. We'll just quickly come over here, select those three, period, or a Q key, and then do at last. Do the same thing, Q key at last. So that just sort of cleaned that up. In fact, we could probably do that here too. Q key at last. And then just take these and move them down like that. Okay, so you can see how, in fact, I'm going to press GG and move that down. We don't strictly need to do this, but I always like my geometry to be pretty. So we're going to move that down about like that. So we've got a nice flow of loops around this boundary here and here that are regular and spaced, and we can continue to operate on those further if we want. But let's just go ahead and look at this. So let's, with subdivision on, so let's press Tab, and we'll come over and add a subdivision modifier. Let's take that up to a value of 2. Okay, and then let's come over into shaded mode. Make sure we have Shade Auto Smooth turned on. And so there we go. We've got that modeled, and it looks pretty good. I think, though, that we could have even better rounding around here. So even though it's a small detail, let's come in and do it. And it just means that since we've got this, let's double click this, turn off subdivision. I want to come in and just use the bevel tool, and let's set it to a value of 2, but with the default shape of 1, and pull that out. And we put a proper fillet in there, and it will just be a little bit more defined. In fact, you could even go up one more. I like that. We may need to check something down here, but that's okay. Let's validate that, switch over, and I'm just going to come here, select that point, GG, just sort of pull that down. Let's do it on the other side too. GG, and sort of pull that down. Okay, so that will actually give us a more round fillet. Tab key, let's come over and turn on. And you see how that looks more round? It's got a more proper roundness to the fillet. Okay, so let's do this. Question mark takes us out of isolation mode. Let's turn off subdivision. Actually, let's remove it. And then we want to take both of these objects. Now, I've got this object and this object, and I've got subdivision on here. Let's go ahead and join both of these like that. And then we need to come in and just see about welding right along here. So let's come into front. Option Z takes us into X-ray, and we're in select box. That's what I was looking for. UI elements move and kind of constantly makes you look. So let's take all of these, do a merge by distance, and then let's do a 0.1, and it got 24 vertices. There we go. Tab key. Let's just again do a double check for face orientation. Everything looks correct. Nothing is mismatched. And then we just come back in and we turn on subdivision. Let's go to a value of 2. Take a look at this, Option Z, and there we go. And it looks very well controlled, right? It's got a really nice proper fillet on there. And now we have the bishop modeled.